When you think of an Acura NSX, you probably think things like reliable Japanese supercar and exotic daily driver. You're probably not thinking of an NSX warming up its slicks in the burnout box at the drag strip. But this is an NSX drag car. Look at those big old meats. Why would someone do this? Take something designed to be one of the best driver's cars of all time and turn it into something built for straight line speed? And more importantly, how did they do it? Let's dig into it. It's time to go bumper to bumper on this Acura NSX drag car. And we might start it up at the end. We want to give Acura a big thank you for sponsoring this episode. The Acura brand has a legacy of performance that has always embraced independent thinking. So we're excited to be working with them to tell the story of a car that came from one of the most independent thinkers we've ever met. That thinker is Adam Sariwatari. But before we can appreciate his NSX and find out just how fast it is, first we need a little background on the philosophy of the NSX in general. After 5 years of thinking outside the box, meticulous development, and fine-tuning by Ayrton Senna and other racers, Honda gave us the world's first Japanese supercar. In the US, it was the perfect performance jewel to set in the center of the new Acura brand's crown. It was called the NSX, which stood for New Sports Car Experimental. The engine was mounted right behind the driver because that's where you put it if you want to go around corners as quickly as possible. Well, a particular kid's uncle happened to get one of the first NSXs in the state, and he let his nephew drive it to his high school winter formal. That's a very cool uncle. I drove my Taurus. That kid was Adam Sariwatari. The NSX made such a big impression on Adam that he later bought one for himself. And when he got into drag racing, he didn't care that it wasn't built for straight line speed or that no one else was racing one. Adam is a lot like Acura in that he didn't want to follow the herd. An NSX is what he'd always wanted to own, and it was what he wanted to drag race. And he was going to be the independent thinker that made that happen.
Oh my God!
When I heard that we were doing an NSX that was also a drag car, I was stoked. I've been drag racing since I was a kid. I did junior dragsters when I was 10 years old. Me and my dad, we had a Pontiac Trans Am that we ran in sportsman class, and then I also crewed on a nostalgia funny car. Trust me when I say that turning an NSX into a pro-level drag car is a huge accomplishment and also really freaking difficult. But with Honda and Acura support, Adam and a small team of experts challenged the status quo. Here's how he did it. Let's look together. Just as Acura builds all of their cars with their customers in mind, this NSX had to be purpose-built for drag racing, and that means from the ground up. First came a Pro Stock tube frame chassis made by Gary Hansen race cars. Now, most tube frame race cars never end up looking like the cars they're modeled after. NHRA Pro Stock drag cars, they look really weird and kind of bloated, and you'd never guess what they're based on without the badge. But Adam took a different approach. Even though he was building a tube frame race car that was much longer than a stock NSX, he wanted it to look as much like the real thing as possible. So Acura shipped OEM body panels over from Japan, which Adam then used to have molds made. Next, fiberglass panels were made from those molds, then modified to fit the new tube frame chassis. Finally, carbon fiber was used to create the panels that are on the car right now. The rear wing here really should be bigger than this for downforce reasons, but Adam insisted on sticking as close to the stock profile as possible. He felt so strongly about that he even had the door handles made to look just like the originals. And damn if this car isn't still instantly recognizable as an NSX, not some janky imitation of one. While we're back here, I'll explain some stuff. We've got the rear wing here. You want the wing as low to the car as possible so you don't create drag pulling the car backwards when you're going down the track. See this little handle over here? It says push off. So if there's an accident and the engine's still running, a track official can, jump the wall, turn the car off just by pushing that thing. We've got the parachute here. This is the cable that holds it all packed in place. Adam has a handle in the car that he pulls after a pass. The cable will release the parachute There's even a hydraulically actuated spring back here that pushes the parachute out because brakes aren't enough to slow this car down. And of course down here we have the wheelie bar, which is actually set in a high position for just going around the pit. It actually goes a lot lower than this, which I shall now demonstrate. I got Adam's permission to do this, so don't flame me in the comments. You'll notice that the wheels here are white and they do not come like that. This is years of shoe polish blotted on here. And why they do that is when the car launches, they can see for how long the car will wheelie and if it's kind of squirrely at all. And that tells the crew a lot about what the car is doing at launch. If it didn't have it, the car would just probably do a wheel stand and just destroy itself on re-entry. I also want to point out that they use the stock brake light back here, which I think is really cool. You know, they spent so much time molding these panels out of carbon fiber, but then use these stock lights. I think that's so awesome. You can even see the cable for the parachute is routed to the old keyhole, which I think is a great little detail. I love this thing, it's amazing. It wasn't easy to keep the original shape of the car intact. All those traditional muscle cars with shaker hoods and big air intakes sticking up out of their engine bays don't do that just for attention. Those changes make real power. But the NSX is a very low hood line, one that was never supposed to have an engine under it at all. And Adam wasn't willing to compromise it. Adam had to go through several custom manifolds to find something that worked well while still keeping that slick, low hood line. Since it's the V6, Adam went with a twin turbo setup with one ball bearing spinning boy per cylinder bank. Two small CO2 bottles have two preset pressures and help control the boost via the wastegates. That's sick. I just spit. That's so awesome. CO2 regulated boost pressure? Are you serious? There's an onboard ice water tank that feeds a liquid to air intercooler to ensure the turbos get nice cool air for every pass down the drag strip. The turn signals on the body even pop out to feed more air into the turbos. That's what these tubes are for. These little trumpets, it's not because Adam's a huge ska punk fan, it's because he wanted more air going to the turbos down the track. A stock 3.2 liter NSX makes 290 horsepower. This NSX makes over 1,300 buff horses at the crank. Whoa, all those horses, it's also got bitchin' carbon fiber brakes. That is not cheap. The struts are made by Lamb Components, a top supplier of pro drag car suspension. The rear uses Koni electronic adjustable shocks that have a unique setting for each gear change. Let me say that again. The suspension changes itself for every gear. That's some trick shit. Along with Acura, Enkai Wheels and Nitto Tires were the two major sponsors of the A&L Racing NSX, but Adam ran Weld Racing wheels with Nittos up front and Goodyear drag slicks on the rear with both of their blessings. At the time, neither Nitto or Enkai had products ready for this level of professional drag competition, so they were fine with the NSX running a more tried and true setup. At drag strips, they prep the launch box with the stuff called VHT. It's like a glue. That's what helps these cars launch so hard. There's barely any tire spin on launch because of the contact patch and that literal glue that the officials spray onto the track. You might be wondering what exactly this car can do at the quarter mile, and we'll get there. But first, let's hop inside this NSX and see how Adam designed the fully custom cockpit.
I don't know where to put this. Just gotta hold it. Oh god. Oh no. Okay.
I'm a little shorter than Adam. This is probably the nicest cockpit we ever seen on the show, and that includes factory cars. This is immaculate. Everything in here is either aluminum or carbon fiber. I'm sitting in a Sparco seat with Sparco harnesses. On the passenger side, we can see the Motec ECU, CDI, and Koni shock control for those electronic rear shocks that we were talking about earlier. This red button on the steering wheel, it's very important. It operates the line lock. So you might have seen videos of drag racers doing huge smoky burnouts, and what that does is heat up the rear tires so they really hook on that sticky VHT that I talked about earlier. This other red button on the shifter here is for overboost. Adam says, you know, if you're going down the track and you don't think you're gonna win, he would hit that button, and that tells these tanks to send more boost into the engine and hopefully get the win. So this shifter is a sequential shifter, which requires only one use of the clutch at launch. For the rest of the pass, Adam is shifting gears as usual. This smaller lever down here is for the reverse. The transmission turns a carbon fiber drive shaft that goes into a titanium yoke that goes into a titanium spool inside of a titanium housing. If a combination of words like titanium spool make you say, huh? Here's the deal. This drag racing NSX has some fancy, expensive titanium chucks back there that make the rear wheels always go the same speed in a straight line instead. So it's like having a welded diff, only way cooler and a lot more expensive. In its heyday, this championship-winning pro drag racing NSX ran the quarter mile in the high 6-second range at speeds around 200 miles an hour. Even as a dramatically different kind of NSX, this car challenged convention just like the original NSX and the Acura brand. Import tuning wouldn't be where it is today without this car, and I'm not bullshitting you. Now, let's stop dilly-dallying. Fire this thing up. Water pumps on, fans on, ignition. Can I drive? Oh my gosh, I'm shaking. Dude, thank you, Adam, for letting me do that. My nose is running. Check out Adam's YouTube channel, Adam Sariwatari Extreme. Follow me on Instagram at Nolan J. Sykes. Follow Donut at Donut Media. Acura forever, man. That was nuts. I'm gonna go take a nap.